Hello and welcome everybody. Today we continue our lessons about From's gambit in the bird's opening. So sometime when your opponent plays EF4, we even here could respond with a very aggressive opening line, with the gambit line, to play E5. And after f takes e5, d6, e takes d6, and bishop takes d6. So here we just studied that it's not so simple for white to complete the development, since black is intending quite unpleasant queen h4 check. Let's say any move like b3, a3, knight c3 or c3 is losing immediately after queen h4 check. So in that case, we came to conclusion that white should play or g2, g3, but in that case after h5, threat h4 is so unpleasant. That's after knight f3 and h4. Knight takes h4 once again could be ruined by rook takes h4, g takes h4 and queen takes h4 checkmate. So clear from all the lines we were studying on our first part on the From's gambit that knight f3 is the almost only response in case black is playing the From's gambit. And here the most aggressive continuation is g7, g5 with the idea g4. So I remember that when I was just a kid, maybe 12 or 11 years old, I just played this opening line with black. I read some books and I was quite good prepared for this line, and I was quite surprised when my quite senior opponent decided to play this line, and in the blitz, I would say very fast, in the rapid tempo, he played d2, d4. So after g4, he moved his knight to g5. I just saw that my opponent just forget about his knight. Why? What's the problem with this move? Because knight cannot go home to h3, not to f3 anymore. So the only square, only option for white's knight is going now to e4. So I decided just to cover this e4 square by playing simply f5. Now, how white could stop black from trapping the knight after h7, h6? I really, to say, was completely sure that the game is over and I'm going to win within a few moves, almost waiting for resignation from my quite experienced opponent. But he just moved pawn e2, e4. And after I played h6, he moved very fast, e4, e5. And after I played bishop e7, here came the real surprise. So this next move I completely overlooked. So white came here with this knight h3 brilliant solution. So what's the point? What's the point? White is sacrificing the full piece, but after g takes h3, so I had to capture the knight. Queen h5 check, suddenly my king in the dangerous position, not white's king anymore. So white got the strong center pawns. My king is in the center. F file is opened. So after bishop c4, white is also intending the checkmate on queen takes f7. I was in panic here. Instead of just accepting my opponent's resignation, I just had to look how to escape from this difficult position. So white is just playing counter gambit line in the From's gambit variation. So in my game, after just long consideration, decided to play queen e8. My opponent just simply captured the pawn on h3, and after next short castling, then white just brings the knight to c3, the bishop to e3, just getting so strong compensation for a piece that I even lost the game. So I came home and asking myself, when I did my mistake, what exactly happened? How it's possible that it's so good From's gambit, which I studied a few days and I was ready to play this position. Suddenly my opponent finds some strong line which totally destroying black's main idea. So looking at the books, I discovered that after bishop c4 black has to play not queen e8, which really leads to the strong position, strong compensation for white, but rook h7. This move never came to my mind because I didn't like to move my rook to h7, since white could even play queen g6. Unfortunately for white, after queen g6, rook g7 and bishop takes h6, it's only for the first sign it looks like white is winning. In fact, black is winning here, because after bishop b4 check, white's king has no escape. c3 or knight e2, whatever, queen h4 check. So it was very important to free the diagonal for the black's queen, for giving this strong check on h4. After g3 and queen takes h6, instead of continue the attack, white's attack is just disappeared. So black is a piece up and having much better position, almost winning. So after queen takes h6, one of the game, later on I found that after queen takes h6, knight takes h6 and c takes b4 and knight c6, knight c3, knight takes d4, black is getting almost decisive material advantage. So it's no problem here at all. So with a piece up to finish this game. So we can try now, instead of playing queen g6, to find some other continuation, but it's not so simple. Let's say I check here move like bishop e3. So black first of all, white cannot play short castling, since after queen takes d4, the bishop is gone. So it's necessary to protect the center pawn. So that's why bishop e3 analyzed. But even here, after h take g2, rook g1, check on h4, king e2, and rook g7. Step by step, black could destroy white's attack. Knight e2. One of the game continues. f4. And threading bishop g4. So black is starting almost decisive counterattack against white's position of white's king in the center. So now we can realize that even white's try to play the counter gambit is not so successful, but you have to remember that it's necessary to play here rook h7 and not queen e8. Once again, what is the main point of rook h7? It's not only covering the f7 square. The most important, and black's queen is still active. So black's queen is attacking white's pawn on d4. So white has no time. So queen g6 is almost necessary move, trying to keep the initiative. But in that case, rook g7, bishop takes h6. It's also possible, of course, to capture on h6, queen takes h6, bishop b4 check. But what for? Bishop b4 here is so strong continuation. It's no moves now for white. Why not? Because let's say we saw here after c3, black simply plays queen h4 check. But what, let's say you can ask, what would happen in case of king f1? King f1, just simply h take g2, check, and black is winning. King d1, and his queen takes d4, and also black is going to win because knight takes h6 next move. And what else? Knight d2, I just simply capture, queen take captures, and queen g5, intending to exchange the queens. After queen h8 check and king e7, once again white has no time for capturing the bishop on c8 because black is checkmating immediately. Check, and queen take g2, checkmate. So one move, rook h7, completely destroys white's main idea in this, I would say, very old line. So I could tell you that I played this being 12 years old around, so it was about 1982. So after we understand that it's no way for white to destroy your main idea, and g5 is still the main line, we could look also a few more games. I played in this situation. g5, d4, g4. So now it's possible for white to play not knight g5 but knight e5. But in that case, after bishop takes e5, d takes e5, queen takes d1, king takes d1, and knight c6, there's no way for white here to dream about any opening advantage because black is getting back this pawn on e5 very fast. Bishop is coming to the center. For instance, let's look the next variation. e3, bishop e6, knight c3, knight g6, just attacking the pawn. So white could play bishop b5, still check, long castling, king e2, and knight takes e5. It's no any problem for black. So black is having very good position of the knights, and the white has some problem about his e3 pawn. All black pieces are very active, so after a6 and bishop c4, white has to look for good square for the king. It's no any problems. So knight e5 is also not so easy for white to play this position. In one of the games, so what happened here, g3, g4, knight h4, knight e7, d4, knight g6, knight take g6, h take g6, queen d3. So some similar line we already saw in our previous lesson. So after queen e7, in case of playing bishop g2 or c3, white choose the best response, e2, e4. So what happened now? Really to say, during the game I had idea, first of all, why not just to capture bishop take g3, but after queen take g3 and queen takes e4, not enough. White even could play queen e3, winning immediately. So c7, c5, counter-attacking the center. d takes c5, bishop takes c5, bishop e3, bishop takes c3, queen takes c3, knight c6. And after knight c3, white got slightly better position with the pawn up. So what is the best response in that case? I believe that even in case of e4, for black, it's just much better simply to continue knight c6. Intending knight b4. Let's say white cannot play move like bishop e3 after knight b4, and then coming queen takes e4. Also, bishop take g3 is quite dangerous. So maybe best response for white here is to play bishop g2. But even now, still I can play bishop f5. Knight c3 or knight d2. Long castling. Position is very, very complicated, but black of course has quite significant compensation for material. So also we are intending knight takes d4. Also in some lines bishop takes g3. Also in some lines knight b4. So keeping quite strong position for a pawn. Okay. Two more examples. f4, e5, f takes e5, g6, e takes d6, bishop takes d6. Knight f3, knight f6, g3. And here in one game I pushed the pawn, h5. Intending h4, even ready to sacrifice exchange in case of knight takes h4, rook takes h4. Look what happened. d4, h4, knight takes h4, and I found here that after knight e4 is almost impossible for white to stop black from capturing the rook on rook h4. Why? Let's say if white plays knight f3, that leads to immediate disaster. You can easily find it, I believe. Rook takes h2. And now, either way, white captures the rook takes h2, knight takes h2, bishop takes g3, and the checkmate is coming. So, by challenging this white's king side h4, black is getting just very, very serious advantage. Knight takes h4, knight e4. So knight f3 we already checked. My opponent played bishop g2, but this doesn't help because same problem, rook takes h2. Now g takes h4 will be met by queen takes h4 and inevitable checkmate. What else? Bishop takes e4 leads to the position after rook takes e4. White is just piece down with no compensation. So I believe that my opponent here finds the best response. He played queen d3. So now if black's knight goes away to f6 or g5, white just simply captures the rook. So if black is trying to play rook takes h2, white is playing queen takes e4 with a check. If black is trying to play rook g4, bishop takes e4. So I had here some small problem, which I guess it was not so difficult to solve with simple move f5. Now, if white captures, queen takes h4, and king f1, then queen f2, and this is a checkmate. So when we play king to d1, that after knight f2 check, white is losing a queen. So just full queen gun for no compensation. Okay. So in the game I played a bit in a funny way. I played bishop f5. After queen b5, bishop d7, queen d3, and bishop c6 just found a way to keep this knight untouchable. Why? Because still g takes h4 will be made by queen takes h4, king f1, queen f2, checkmate, king d1, similar line, knight f2, and black is winning. And if white is trying to play d4, d5, black simply captures this pawn, and queen takes d5 will be met by bishop b4, and white's hanging queen on d5 is gone. Okay, so now the end, I would like to show you two games I just found which were playing in some international tournaments, and so real encounter between two players in the maybe not so strong international tournament, but still. So already from all the materials we just today studied, it's just quite clear that not so many top players would follow this f4 and e5 line, because in that case black is getting just so good compensation for the small material disadvantage. So after f4 e5, f takes e5, d6, e takes d6, and bishop takes d6. So that's why this line usually only happen in some open tournaments and just almost never happen in some top tournaments, and even on grandmaster and master level it's just also not so often. Knight f3, and instead of playing g5, or instead of playing h5 here, of course not, so black is just continuing the classical way, knight f6, d4, and knight g4. So this idea we already studied, that black is intending to capture on h2 with a knight and then to come with queen h4 check. For instance, just almost losing position for white after move like b3, since after knight takes h2, look what happened. Rook takes h2, bishop takes h2, knight takes h2, and now like in the checkers, black is just getting all check, check, and the next move even we can capture the rook with a decisive material advantage. So of course it's not so difficult for serious player, and white found the right way, just played bishop g5, f6, bishop h4, so somehow covered the problem. Of course black could even here play g5, in that case white is answering bishop g2. Instead black decided just to concentrate his pieces close to the white's weakness in the center, e4 and e3, just very good outpost for black's forces. Queen e7, queen d3, castling short side, knight bd2, c5. So instead of trying to win some material, black is just destroying white center, finishing development. h3, knight e3, bishop f2, c takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop f4, and still it's so difficult for white to get rid of black's initiative. Look at white's bishop on f5, rook on h1. There's no way to get it out. Bishop takes e3, bishop takes e3, long castling. So knight c6, just continues the development. One more piece came into the game. Knight takes c6, B takes C6, King B1, trying to get rid of this pin, but Rook D8, Queen B3 check, King H8, Queen C3, Rook B8. Black is almost in winning position, so white just cannot move. What next? Black is maybe even intending to play Queen E5 with the winning situation. G4. It's a blunder, of course, after Bishop D4, but I guess it's no better. The position just already so bad. We cannot find even the better recommendation anymore. Queen A5, check on B2, King C1, and after Rook B5, Black is intending already decisive threats. Bishop B2, Queen A3. So white played Queen takes D8, sacrificed the Queen, but of course resigned in a few moves. And the last game I would like to show you. F45 takes D6. When white just tried to play very slow, E2, E3. How to play in that case? Knight C6, just develop. Bishop B5. Short castling, just continue developing. Knight C3, Bishop G4. So black is just going next with Queen E7, maybe Rook D8, Rook E8. For white it's so difficult to finish the development. So black is having just great pieces and the open diagonals, open files in the center. White moved the bishop back, Bishop E2. Rook E8, castle in short side, Queen E7, King H1, Rook A to D8. So great concentration of all black forces in the center. Is not allowing white to finish the development so fast, and step by step black is improving the position in the center and getting into the white's king side, just breaking through very fast. So game continues. A3. Maybe white is trying to play B4 and Bishop B2. Knight H5. So now already time. Black is looking towards the white's king side, already threatening. Maybe Bishop takes H2. Maybe Knight G3 at some line. Maybe just to bring the Queen first to H6. With a serious threat on the king side. Queen E1, Knight E5, Knight takes E5, Queen takes E5. It's ready in here. So white is already in quite dangerous position. So unfortunately, in that game what happened, white played Queen H4. And this is a serious blunder. Why? Because black simply answered here. G5 and queen cannot capture on G4 because queen takes H2. And in case of best response here is a D4, still white is in very big trouble. Takes, and bishop takes E5. No way to develop this bishop. Black is having huge positional advantage. So for white is very, very difficult to play even in this situation. So we just studied the different ways of playing this From's Gambit variation. we also studied what would happen in case of white is playing the best way. We also studied the typical traps which could happen in the From's gambit. So with the queen h4 and all other lines where we are using the weaknesses of white's diagonal e1 h4. And the main conclusion which I can make from all these lines we just were studying, that white has to play extremely careful, because one bad move, one blunder, and the game is over. So black always is keeping so good position, so good compensation for just one pawn, that not so many players who are ready just to defend for so many moves as with the white pieces. I mean, just to play the bird's opening and just to be ready to contradict black's strong threats of all black's army against the white's king. So that's why today the bird's opening is not so often played in the tournament practice, and I said that it's quite rarely, almost never happen in the grandmaster practice. Thanks everybody for watching. I believe you enjoyed in today's lecture and the lesson about the From's gambit. So follow me on the next series of lecture about the gambits, about how to develop your pieces fast, how to find the tactical combination, and how to play aggressively in chess, thanks to the Gambit Guide, which I present here already for so many lectures, so many lessons. If you have any questions, you can contact me on www.chesslessons.wordpress.com, and thanks for watching, and bye, see you.